What's going on, guys? For anybody who's interested, I left an explanation of my absence for the last few days at the end of the video. So if you want to check that out, you can. If not, just click off whenever you get bored. All right, guys, let's do it.
It would be an understatement to say that Britain and the USA's relationship got off to a rocky start. In 1812, Britain and America were at war, but just over a century later they were fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War I, which obviously raises the question, when did Britain and America become allies?
Anybody who knows me probably understands by now that I'm an idiot and not that well versed in history. So although I am trying to learn now, I'm trying to correct that. Yeah, I don't know why we started becoming, cordial. That's why I decided to stop on this video when I saw it and check it out.
There had to be a point where both went from actively disliking each other to working alongside each other. Now, before continuing, it's important to note that even in the immediate aftermath of independence, America and Britain still had strong economic ties. This isn't to say that things were always great between the two, and there were some pretty major conflicts of interest in the years after the War of 1812 finished.
We won.
Between the two, and there were some pretty major conflicts of interest in the years after the War of 1812 finished. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, was the Monroe Doctrine, established in 1820.
Yeah, see, don't know about a Monroe Doctrine.
This was where the United States, by threat of military intervention, declared an end to any new European colonial adventures in the Americas. And for Britain, this was potentially a problem because it had economic interest in South America. In reality, though, it wasn't too much of a problem at all, because in 1833 it landed a force on the Falkland Islands and America did nothing. In 1842, the US did warn Britain against interference in Hawaii, which Britain did heed because America's international power was certainly growing. And it was this fact that America was a rapidly growing great power whose interests could no longer be ignored, which would dominate Anglo-American relations for the following century. I
don't know, that's gotta suck though. Like, you help found a nation, so to speak, colonies, and whenever they get, big enough to take care of themselves, they tell you to go to hell. So, I guess that would bother me if I raise my kids and, treat them fairly well, and then they get big enough to leave and they tell me to go to hell. That would hurt.
Be ignored, which would dominate Anglo-American relations for the following century. So the next major event which could have changed the Anglo-American dynamic was the American Civil War, which broke out in 1861. Britain had already abolished slavery at this point, and so you would think that it would have
Yes, so for anyone who doesn't know about that, which was me up until recently when I watched the video, and I'll leave that card up here if you want to check out that. It's the video called When British Ended Slavery. Very, very interesting and eye-opening video, very enlightening for people that have been kept in the dark, especially Americans, all their life, about basically the beginning of the end of slavery in the world. Yeah, if you don't know about that, I really suggest you check it out. But yeah.
Out in 1861. Britain had already abolished slavery at this point, and so you would think that it would have preferred the Union over the Confederacy. But you'd be wrong. Now, Britain had no great affection for the Confederacy in its slaveholding practices. Its preferential treatment was purely economic, mostly due to cotton imports. Britain did consider formally recognising the Confederacy, and Anglo-American relations were severely harmed by what's called the Trent Affair. This was where the US government seized a ship with Confederate diplomats headed for Britain, which to Britain looked like the USA telling it who it could and could not speak to. In the end, cooler heads...
All right, so hold on. It takes me a second to digest some of this information.
Was severely harmed by what's called the Trent Affair. This was where the US government seized a ship with Confederate diplomats headed for Britain, which to Britain looked like the USA telling it who it could and could not speak to.
It said they ceased to ship with US diplomats? I'm sorry, I keep rewinding. Somebody explain that to me if you know, because I don't really... to me, it sounds sort of vague.
It did construct a very powerful war to speak to. In the end, cooler heads prevailed and Britain didn't get involved, although it did construct a very powerful warship, the CSS Alabama, for the Confederacy. And after the Civil War was over, Britain paid compensation to the United States. Thus, only 50 years away from World War I, Britain and America still didn't really care much for each other. So what changed this? Well, relations actually started to improve during Britain's border dispute with Venezuela in
You're
1895. This developed into somewhat of a crisis, and the US intervened and arbitrated, siding mostly with Britain. For Britain, America had conducted itself in a well-mannered fashion and given Britain most of what it had wanted. And for America, by accepting American arbitration, Britain had yielded its right to influence South America. The other reason for Anglo-American rapprochement was simple: converging interests. America had emerged from its civil war a more centralised industrial power, and after its defeat of Spain in 1898, it possessed a global empire too. And for Britain, things were rapidly changing as well. Its empire and global position was being threatened by Russia and the newly formed Germany. Britain had long practiced a policy of isolationism with respect to the European powers, but since they too were industrialising, this had the potential to threaten Britain's position. Thus, her most natural ally seemed to be the United States, since it was half a world away and had its own sphere of influence, plus they spoke the same language and shared many values. It was at the turn of the 20th century under President Theodore Roosevelt that America and Britain really started to become friends, particularly with respect to one foreign policy stance. They didn't like Germany. This agreement allowed for Britain to move its fleet away.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And some of the other stuff, man, like you guys always do, you help to educate me about stuff like this. I don't know. All right, let me keep going.
To one foreign policy stance. They didn't like Germany. This agreement allowed for Britain to move its fleet away from its Caribbean colonies back to Britain to defend itself from Germany, while security in the Caribbean would fall to the US. After the First World War broke out, Germany's actions such as U-boat attacks on American shipping and the Zimmermann telegram, combined with the fact that if Britain and France lost the war, they wouldn't be able to pay their American loans back, assured US intervention on their side. And from that point onwards, both the US and UK were largely in the same camps, barring a...
Wait, so we helped to make sure that they paid us back?
On their side. And from that point onwards, both the US and UK were largely in the same camps, barring a couple of mishaps here and there. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you.
All right, guys. Yeah, that was short and sweet. It was a lot of information in that short video. That was a great video, guys. I learned a little bit on that stuff I've never learned. But most videos I learned stuff I didn't know. At the end of this, I would say at the end of this year, if I'm able to continue doing this, I'm going to be a whole lot more educated than I was when I started. Credit to the videos and to you guys. So yeah, if anybody wants to break down a few points in this video for me, I would very much appreciate it. I do read, I'm going to say 99% of the comments. So, and I appreciate every one of them. But anyway, guys, for those of you who are maybe interested on the explanation that I have for the past few days, being absent the past few days, continue on in the video and I'll get that started as soon as we say our goodbyes. So, goodbye. Hey guys, thanks for staying. I just wanted to let the regular viewers know that I'm sincerely sorry, which I know I've been saying that a lot. Sorry about being absent the past 3 or 4 days, 5 days. I don't know. I get in these slumps sometimes where like the motivation and hope just vanishes, you know, and then the reality that, you know, a single dad would, you know, 4 kids is and you know, a damaged vehicle who can't really get to work, you know, is kind of bleak. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm working on getting that in control. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Hopefully I can come out of it and start being a little more consistent. It's weird because I want this channel to grow so much, so quickly. And the easiest way I believe to do that is to stay consistent and to put out enough, you know, decent quality content. But, you know, I know that. And then, you know, I get in these little, in this, you know, I guess for lack of a better term, depression, and I just don't do anything. And that really doesn't help the channel. And then I'll sit there and wonder why the channel isn't growing, and it's because of you, idiot. Me. I'm talking about me. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, and I'm working on it. I would like to do one video a day on the channel and on Patreon. But hopefully we'll get to that point, guys. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for supporting. And hopefully this is the last time I will leave you guys days without uploading. So, all right. Thanks, guys.